This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
If you don't like the show Lassie just because of Texas A&M, you've come to the right place. Texas Tech Sports lives on Double T 97.3.
Lassie. Wow. Did you ever watch Lassie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure did.
I mean, there were several variations of it. I'm surprised it hasn't come back. I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to, because you can go find a Lassie. I mean, there's plenty of Lassies out there. And then, you know, a little boy loving his dog and adventures and things like that.
Sure.
I don't know if that sells anymore. I don't know if that's sexy enough on TV, but, you know, there's plenty of, and there's old Lassie episodes too if you want to go watch them.
I think there's only so many times you can find Timmy in the well, though.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say, if you had your choice of a TV right now, I mean this show may be too young for you or too old for you guys. I'm going to guess Jamie's never heard of it and Jeff has. Okay, if you had your choice of watching Lassie or Flipper, which would you watch?
Lassie. Yeah.
Flipper.
Yeah, see, I'm with Jeff. Flipper. Have you ever seen Flipper?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All
He was faster than lightning, man.
Yeah. All right. And he performed at the Dolphins games too when he was done playing Flipper. He was the dolphin at the Dolphins games.
What did he do?
He just was in the tank.
That's called performing.
Flipper. Yeah. I believe that's Google check me there. Jeff McGuire. We get this. Texas Tech softball will win the conference trophy. Best season ever. Will they host a regional? Possible host super if they advance. Yeah, so they're scheduled to play UT Arlington today at 5 at Rocky Johnson Field. I would presume, unless we just get bucketfuls of rain late this afternoon, that game is on.
My assumption would be yes.
Okay, because UT Arlington is probably here, so there's no reason to, unless they decide to move it up for some reason. I'm not aware of the hourly forecast for today, so you can correct me if I'm wrong there. And then this weekend they'll host Arizona State at Rocky Johnson Field. Friday night at 6, Saturday afternoon at 4, and Sunday at noon. Magic number for this softball team is 2.
Yeah, they just have to win 2 this weekend.
Yeah, 2.
Like the odds. 2.
And then they win the Big 12. So good for them. Then next week they'll play out at Provo. They'll play in Provo at Miller Park against BYU Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then head to the Big 12 tournament after that in Oklahoma City. If you win the Big 12, I would think that you would host a regional, especially because
where you are in the rankings
yeah.
leads you to believe that you'd be one of the top 16 teams. I assume it's the same number of teams, 64 in the softball tournament.
I believe you're correct. Yeah.
I really do not know the answer, but
yeah. We get a Flipper response, and then we get a Flipper was found by Ace Ventura after Dan Marino was kidnapped.
Oh man.
The dolphin that the Miami Dolphins used was named Flipper,
but was
in
not
honor of Flipper.
Okay.
Different dolphin, and I'm seeing a very dark and deep road that the original Flipper went down.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, like mistreatment and
oh goodness, that's too
stuff
bad.
I didn't want to know about a really fun TV show.
Okay. All right.
I don't know I'm not doing I don't want to do a deep
dive.
dive.
He was like every other child actor, and he got into drugs.
No, abused as an animal. Like the animal was abused to get him to do the tricks and things, and didn't want to know that.
Every other child actor got into drugs.
Yeah.
So
he also dated Marsha Brady.
Oh no! I mean. Look, if you're of my age and you grew up in that era, we all wanted to date Marsha Brady. You know,
yeah.
Every single last one of us, we would have done.
You just feel like you hear lots of stories of actors at that time that dated Marsha Brady.
Yeah, wasn't She wasn't sweet Polly purebred. I saw this, and I thought you would find this interesting. The headline is, Rafael Nadal, 5 months into retirement, says, he does not miss tennis. I miss it zero.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. And so he said this on Monday.
He's probably playing lots of pickleball now.
He said, the truth is I don't miss it. In fact, I miss it zero. But I miss it zero not because I finished tired of tennis or fighting against tennis. Not at all. The complete opposite. I finished happy with tennis.
Nice. Peace.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. You don't hear athletes say that very often, when they retire. That they always say that they miss the camaraderie or they miss the game or, maybe I shouldn't have walked away or things like that. But, he spent 23 years as a tennis player and obviously had tremendous success. And
tennis season it really never ends. And so I think for guys that play those kind of sports where they don't get the 3 or 4 months off a year or whatever, I think it does kind of wear on them that they never really get a life.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure, him enjoying spending time with his wife and all that good stuff is, like he actually gets to relax every once in a while. And he's obviously very young. He's 38 years old, which, in tennis years, that's ancient. But in regular human years, it's not very much. Somebody says this snowflake was the dolphin Ace Ventura was looking for. I have a feeling that this is going to be a theme this morning. 6:38 this morning here on the morning drive. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. You can go to WT973.com for that, of the mobile app. The Visual Edge IT hotline is open too at 806-771-0973. Boy, the Memphis Grizzlies aren't putting up much of a fight against the Oklahoma City Thunder, are they? How bad was it last night? It was 50-something the first game?
Yeah, it was just awful. Last night it wasn't as bad, 118-99. But the first game was 131-80.
51. What was this one? 118?
118-99. So wasn't
19.
At the end of the day, but I'm sure they called off the Dogs way early. Yeah.
Well, they've got such great leadership on that team. That's surprising. That's not going well for them.
And Sean Morant has really not been able to kind of show his stuff yet.
Have we been dropping bombs on the crowd?
Right, things like
shooting
that.
Pistols at the referees or anything?
Sure. And, AKAs, all those things.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Time for this day in sports history. Today is Wednesday, April the 23rd. And with this day in sports history, here is Jeff McGuire.
1952. Bob Kane of the St. Louis Browns and Bob Feller of the Cleveland Indians each pitch a one-hitter. Home team wins 1-0, Sportsman Park in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow. That's a tough luck loser for old Bob Feller.
Sure.
1954. Some guy named Hank Aaron hits his first Major League Baseball home run.
Wow, how about that?
Better keep an eye on that kid. Think he's going to be pretty good. 1971, Ruben Garcia retires 19 straight batters and goes 8 innings to earn Texas Tech's 4th no-hitter in a 1-0 win over Baylor. I do not know why it was 8 innings. I could not find that out quickly.
Okay.
But it was an 8-inning no-hitter.
And he was the starting pitcher.
In a no-hitter.
I didn't know if maybe that somebody came on and he was on in relief after the first inning.
Then it would have been a combined no-hitter.
Unless they didn't recognize the other guy.
Like, who is that out there? I don't know who he is.
1978.
That was funny.
Major League Baseball Cincinnati Reds second baseman Joe Morgan ends a record streak of 91 consecutive errorless games.
Little Joe.
1989. Jerry, 1989. NFL draft, number 1 pick, Troy Aikman. Did well. Follow that. 2008. Chris Richburg has 3 runs and 3 RBI and seals a cycle with a home run in the 7th as Texas Tech beats New Mexico State 16-10.
Nice.
There you
Good
go.
day for Mr. Richburg.
Cycle, yeah.
And in 2015, Kawhi Leonard is named the NBA Defensive Player of the Year for the very first time. It is National Cherry Cheesecake Day.
I love me some cherry cheesecake.
And National Picnic Day. So get some cheesecake and go on a picnic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to John Cena, who's 49. George Lopez, 64. And Andrew Jones is 48. And on this day in 1975, at a speech at Tulane University, President Gerald Ford says the Vietnam War is finished as far as the Americans are concerned. Today, Americans can regain the sense of pride that existed before Vietnam, but it cannot be achieved by refighting a war. This was devastating news to the South Vietnamese, who were desperately pleading for U.S. support as the North Vietnamese surrendered Saigon for the final assault on the capital city. And that is this day in sports history.
This day in sports history, 6:48 this morning here on the morning drive. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center channel line. Okay. I saw this last night right before I went to go to bed, and I just Googled the article just because I thought it was so doggone funny, but it was completely. It was on Inside the NBA during the TNT's coverage of postseason. Apparently, Shaquille O'Neal, while they were on set on TV, he just had to go to use the facility. And so he just gets up. He just gets up and he walks off. And he said, "Go ahead, keep talking, gents." Charles Barkley, "We're on TV. I know what we're doing. Go ahead." And then Kenny Smith's like, "Yeah, it's that olive oil you've been drinking." And he just gets up and walks in front of the set and hustles out the door to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And apparently when he came back, they had not yet gotten back to analysis of the Clippers win over the Denver Nuggets. And they even showed a slow motion replay of O'Neal's sprint to come back out. He said, "Sorry about that, America." Anyway, he said he blamed Charles Barkley for talking so damn much and preventing them from going to commercial.
Sounds like he had a bit of an emergency.
He had a bit of an emergency, but boy, just watching him gingerly walk, it's like, man, it's he needs to maybe do some laps.
He was doing the "I gotta go to the bathroom now" walk. We've all done it. It's fine.
Yeah, he was. He was, but it was. I mean, it was really funny. At least I thought it was. I thought it was funny. So at any rate, that's your NBA moment from me from last night. This was sad yesterday, and I caught this last night as well. Mike Patrick, who did ESPN Sunday Night Football for years and years and years, and tons of college football and college basketball games. He died Sunday at the age of 80. He had been retired since 2018, natural causes. But he was a guy. He was just a solid broadcaster. Mm-hmm. You know, he wasn't flashy. He didn't have a "whoa Nelly" or anything like that. He just called it as he saw it, and was pretty much just X's and O's and Jimmy's and Joe's, and he was just a really, really solid broadcaster.
Yeah, I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed him a lot. But that's too bad. It said. So apparently he got his broadcasting start in college. He was an aspiring college baseball player at George Washington. He said he stumbled across a leaflet on a bulletin board It said the college radio station needs talk show hosts, newscasters, sportscasters, disc jockeys. That sounds like fun, and fun was all I ever cared about. I was almost thrown out of college for having bad grades until I saw this sign on the board. I said, I'd like to be a sportscaster. They said, oh, we've got a show at 4. Really? I had no idea what I was going to do, but I did the show from 4 to 5 that day, and I was hooked. I loved it. And to this day, I loved every game that I did, even the bad ones. Good for him.
It's awesome.
Good for him. Yeah, good for him. I understand that. That's, I don't feel like I work at all. And some people would say, yeah, you don't work at all.
Who would say that?
There's plenty of folks. He did women's Final Four. He did College World Series baseball for a long time as well. And so at any rate, Mike Patrick passing at the age of 80. 6:53 this morning here on the Morning Drive. We'll have baseball on the air for you tonight as the Astros look to win again, look for a sweep against the Toronto Blue Jays at home. And then the Rangers in Game 2 of their series with a swinging ace out in Sacramento. We'll have that for you at 8:30, the Astro game. We'll have after the high school fan zone, which will be from 6 until 7 tonight on 100.7 The Score with coaches from Friendship, Cooper, and Liberty. All being here in the First United Bank studio. And then the Astros and the Blue Jays will take over. Let's see. Anything from the 8 Soaring Center chat line that we have not? Somebody wants to know when the basketball portal opens back up. I thought it was still open, unless it's closed. It's just I thought it was open until the 25th, but I may be wrong about that. I'll check on that. As far as the football portal is still open as well. It's hard to see when something opens and closes because it feels like nobody really pays attention to that.
Yeah, it feels like there is no door.
Yeah, there is no door. It's like
always changing.
It's like when you go to the grocery store and you look in the back in the stock room and they've got those long strips of plastic that you walk through to go back into the freezer area or back into the stock room. So that way they don't have to worry about the doors opening and closing all the time.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. The portals are for the basketball and the football players and college sports teams.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Morning Drive. Good morning with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. We get this. When a transfer comes in, the comment about their classification and years of eligibility remaining seems irrelevant. Yes, it does.
You are so right.
Especially with men's basketball. More than likely, they will not exhaust their eligibility at Texas Tech. I think you could fill that in at any Power 4 school for the most part. Unless they performed at such a level, i.e. JT Toppin, that you, quote, can't afford to let them go.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be some select few or some that you would say that.
And therefore the fans just don't get attached to anybody.
Which is just incredibly sad to me. It's sad because we've become accustomed to that in professional sports, particularly the NFL. It seems like you're going to have you might have a core of players.
I don't feel that way at all. I mean,
you don't?
I don't. I mean, my favorite professional teams. I mean, I can, root for the majority of it. The group of guys are there for a long time.
I think there's less of that than in the pro sports now than in the college sports.
Yes, I think there's less in pro sports. I mean, yeah, guys sign contracts and are there for 4 or 5 years or whatever. I mean,
maybe you're right. Yeah, as I think about
the quarterback on my favorite football team has been there since he was drafted. The best player on my favorite baseball team has been there since he's drafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's not. You're right about that. There was a point in time it felt like there was a lot of free agency movement, but
there's free agency movement by the edge players.
Yeah.
The role players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The core is staying the same.
But the core, the real players, the guys that matter the most, stay the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're probably right about that. As I think about that, it's worse.
That is definitely not the way in college basketball.
No, it's worse. It's worse and probably the worst in college basketball, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Probably the worst in college basketball. So the Elijah Hawkins thing is really interesting to me. He completed his eligibility because he played 4 years. He did not take an injury year, did not take a redshirt year. But now as part of this court case that's going on, there's all kinds of discussion about, the junior college kids getting to claw back and get an extra year or two if they played 2 years in junior college. I'm really somewhat I feel like, look, if you went to a junior college, man, that's on you, because for the most part, you either went to a junior college, and I went to one for a year. I went to one so that I could learn how to study and be a better college student. And a lot of the times, these basketball or football players are going to a junior college for one of two reasons. Either their grades weren't good enough to get into a Division I school, or they wanted to go hone their skills, and they utilized a junior college to increase their skill level, right?
But about 90% of the ones that are playing Division I basketball didn't get way better at the JUCO level. They got eligible.
At the right.
JUCO level.
Right.
There are plenty of kids that go to the JUCO level to hone their skills and end up in D2 and D3.
Yeah.
But there's not a ton that go there because of to get better to move up to D1. But it's usually to get eligible.
It's 90 some odd percent of that. And there's some injury cases that, at the junior college level. But so I'm really mixed on first of all, I don't think you should get 2 additional years. Okay, if you go to a junior college for 2 years, because if you go to a junior college for 2 years and then you go on, then you probably were forced to go and prove that you could get a junior college degree, an associate's degree, before you advanced on to the Division I level. How do you feel about giving a year or 2 years to these kids, in addition to the 4 years, so that potentially they could have 6 years to play?
I mean, I'm obviously against it. Why? Let's go back to the conversation. Why is Elijah Hawkins? What are we fighting for there?
Well, so here's the potential for him. If they change the rules that you get to play 5 and 5 years, guys like him that played 4 years could receive an extra year of eligibility.
Okay.
So that's what's potentially on the table.
Does it really have anything to do with junior college stuff?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I just got kind of off the path there a little bit before I finished my thought on Elijah. So there's a part of me that says, I think I would like hey, you got 5 years, so if you get injured, sorry about you. If you didn't get enough playing time, sorry about you. If if there was a bunch of people ahead of you and you chose the wrong team, sorry about you. But you get 5 years to play, and we'll pay for 5 years, and then you move on, little doggy. That seems pretty clean to me, Jamie. It would end all these. I'm sure somebody will get their shorts in a wad, though, and then sue the NCAA, and then all of a sudden you'll be back to the 6, 7, and 8 years. Because Alan Bowman could have gotten an 8th year to play college football.
I have no confidence that it'll be like you want it to be. Like, hey, 5 years only. I don't care what happens. Mm-hmm. No confidence that's going to happen.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Because nobody has a backbone?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Why are we giving them an extra year now?
That's a good question. So because they were penalized for going to school and getting out in 4 years, quote, penalized. I'm saying that
we don't know that
facetiously,
quote unquote. We don't know that they're getting out in 4 years.
Yeah,
they just used up all their eligibility.
True.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we've seen plenty of athletes graduate in less than 4 years.
Sure, they certainly have the opportunity because of the number of summer sessions and things like that the university is more than willing to pay for.
I don't understand why do we feel like they had to have another year?
Just probably to end the charade of appealing for this and appealing for that.
But we both know it's not going to happen.
It's not going to end, right? Yeah. It's not going to end. So maybe just keep on with the keeping on. It's good. cost people jobs
They
if you
pretty
don't
much
have anybody to
in
appeal
college
to.
football right now, they're getting 5 years anyways. Right? Because you can play 4 games in the regular season and as many as you want in the postseason and it not count as a year.
Right. It's just nuts, right?
So they're basically getting 5 already.
Plus, yeah. And then if you get hurt, you can, have the year to rehab and things like that. It's just like, good God, at some point in time, we need people to stand up and just be a man about it, right? Okay, I got my 4 years. I'm good. I'm going off to be an accountant.
These are the rules.
Yeah.
4 years of playing.
Right.
These are the rules. Now we're going to let somebody else play.
Somebody asked, would you lump in the prep academies into the JUCOs? No. Look, again, if you go to a junior college, there's a reason why you went to a junior college if you're a Division I athlete. Because, as Jamie said, grades. That's the number one reason. Because you didn't do your schoolwork, so you didn't qualify to get into a Division I school, so you got to go to a junior college and prove that you can have the grades to be able to play at the Division I level. That's the rule.
I don't think they should be given extra years for junior college ball.
Okay.
And I don't think they should be given extra years for prep ball either.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out of high school, okay, and you're playing some version of a college basketball.
Yeah.
You're out of high school.
Yeah, so if you have a Division I athlete in your house and he's not cutting his grades, and he's in high school, and there's still a chance for him to save himself or herself, then I would advise get him to an academic counselor and tell him to straighten up and sit up straight and do his homework. But we just don't want to tell people to do that anymore because we're just too afraid.
Jamie hinted at the problem, and he said, these are the rules. The problem is these are the rules today.
Right.
They're going to change tomorrow. They're going to change a week from then. They won't stick.
Somebody's going to say, I'm going to call
with
my
one
lawyer.
set of rules.
I'm going to sue you.
If they were to sit with one set of rules and let it play out, we could figure out what we're going to do.
We
can't set on one set of rules. All you have to do is pick one set and stick with it. And the NCAA and college athletics and the universities and Congress and everybody that's got their finger in this, nobody wants to set with the rules.
Yeah.
Set a set of rules and go with it. This is not everybody gets their way at times. You got to play by rules. You just got to figure out which ones you want to play by and stick with it.
We just can't do that anymore, though.
You can. You just have to choose.
You're going to get sued.
You're going to get sued, right? Because some mommy's going to call an attorney, and the next thing you know, you got a swimmer taking down the NCAA.
Swimmer.
A swimmer.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
Okay, I do not want you guys to pull up any standings when I ask you this question.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Okay? I want you to take into account the quote-unquote big 3 sports. I feel like it's a big 2 and little 1 now.
Okay.
Of football, men's basketball, and baseball.
All right.
Okay? Fully well accepting that football is, we're going to say, worth 60%. Men's basketball is worth 30%. Baseball is worth 10%.
Okay.
I want your perception of who has had the best year in the Big 12 Conference and who has had the worst year in the Big 12 Conference.
Oh, of all the teams.
Of all the schools, which school has had the best school year in football, men's basketball, and baseball? Just what is the perception if you just thought, well, they probably had the best year or they had a terrible year? I think there's a no-brainer for the worst, and it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
I think the 2 worst are kind of surprising, in my opinion. But I want you guys to go ahead and answer.
Okay, so I think the worst is Oklahoma State with men's basketball, the baseball, which, I mean, you talked about at the start of their season about this is a team that's locked and loaded to challenge for a Big 12 championship, and they're not even going to make the Big 12 tournament. And
they'll probably make the Big 12 tournament. Yeah.
But their football season was awful. We didn't expect that.
No.
And their basketball season may have been just a little bit better than actually what anybody expected, but it was
still awful.
But it was still awful, right? It was still awful. So they were awful.
Who would you say is number 2 on the list of bad?
Of the bad?
Utah?
Yeah, that's who I have.
Okay, I was going to say Cincinnati.
Yeah, Utah.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Maybe it's because their expectations obviously were higher, but the fun of them feeling like they're going to come in and run this conference, and then they have had
been run almost out of this conference.
Yeah, they've had one of the worst seasons.
I can't sit here and tell you how BYU baseball has done, but their BYU football and basketball was really good. So I'm, and then you look at just trying to think of somebody else that's. Colorado basketball was awful. They don't play baseball, so that doesn't count. K-State and KU, Iowa State, those 3 schools, not much. UCF, not very good overall. West Virginia they fired their football coach. They were mediocre. Baseball's been really good. Basketball was they didn't make the tournament. I will say, because BYU was the first thing in my head when you started first talking about that.
Okay, Jeff?
Because of percentages, Iowa State had the best year. They had a decent basketball season. Not great, but decent. Made it in the NCAA tournament. Won the Big 12 in the Big 12 championship game. Played in the college football play. Not Iowa. No. Iowa State. Not Iowa State.
Remember, they don't play baseball.
They don't. Well, no.
But
it's only 10%.
Just make it 65-35 if you're talking Iowa State or Colorado, and skip the 10% for baseball.
I still stick with Iowa State for having the best year,
for being in the Big 12 championship game and
making
an
NCAA tournament run. And played really well.
They won 1 game in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody in the Big 12 won except Kansas in the first round.
And here's the thing. I mean, if your baseball team had done not much more than what it's doing right now, Texas Tech would be up there too.
I think BYU is number 1 on my list, just because the fact that football is higher than basketball, than men's basketball, pushes BYU to the top as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like Texas Tech might fall behind BYU.
As second.
Yeah.
Yeah, for as good a basketball season as you had, and the fact that you won 8 games in the regular year for football.
Yeah. But because of the percentages of how much football means compared to basketball, I put BYU ahead of Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And I don't know if baseball could have. I mean, maybe if baseball was winning the league, you could have jumped BYU, but it would have been difficult. Yeah, I feel like just because that. And technically, they were only 1 game ahead of the Red Raiders in football. It comes to the Big 12 record. And you were 1 game farther than them in the NCAA tournament. So you can see it's decently close.
Yeah.
Red Raiders would be ahead of BYU in the baseball standings. But you can see it's pretty close. So the point of me asking the question was, I think the Red Raiders are really high.
Yeah. And we were all, until I started kind of walking through this school. I'm like, well, then you look at the one that's right here and go, yeah, you had a pretty good year. Especially with 2 of the 3. But when you look at the percentages, of football being the most and then basketball. How
crazy is it that Oklahoma State and Utah would be at the bottom? That's just crazy.
It is crazy for how bad their football season was. And then you add on that their basketball season was almost as bad for Oklahoma State. Yeah. Like, it's not like they were expected to win the conference in basketball. But it was almost as bad as their football season was, and their football season was atrocious. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Especially with what they had returning.
I don't care what they had returning. This is a program that's had success in this league for a while and got nothing. Nothing. They got the Kansas treatment from the 90s.
This Iowa State underachieved, was a top 10 football team and didn't win the conference. Iowa State also underachieved in basketball, only winning one game, I guess, in postseason, and then no baseball. Somebody else has BYU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. Utah, worst. Oklahoma State, close. Second best, Tech, Baylor, or BYU. Is UCF the third worst? Yeah, they had a really bad season. And their baseball's not been very good either.
They've got nothing to hang their hat on. Except that they're in the Big 12, basically.
Yeah, that's right. They're in the Big 12.
And they can root for their best defensive lineman playing for Texas Tech this year.
Oklahoma State basketball wasn't as bad as their 0-9 football team.
Yeah, somebody says add Tech softball and Tech is on top.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Morning Drive. Good morning with Jamie Lent, Jeff McGuire, and Chuck Heinz. We'll have Red Raider baseball on the air for you tomorrow, weather permitting. I mean, it might be a little dicey tomorrow and Saturday, but we'll see. We'll have. Friday. Today's Wednesday. Sorry, got ahead of myself.
Jumping ahead again.
I know, jumping ahead again. But if you look at Friday's better than Saturday in terms of the weather, and Friday's actually better than tomorrow. Friday just a 24% chance of rain, and Saturday is at 61%, and Sunday is at 13%. They weathered the game out yesterday. That was probably a good thing. They probably needed a day off, right? Or it may not have been their regular day off. I don't know what their.
I don't think it hurt anything.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a mental health day, and I don't know if that was the case, or if their scheduled day off is today, or if it's tomorrow. But my guess is probably do they have a scheduled day off? They have to do one every 7 days.
Yeah,
and so it kind of changes
each week. Yeah,
changes with the schedule. But they'll have Arizona coming to town Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You have good vibes, or is this is a tough team, isn't it, Arizona?
No, it is a tough team, no question. But I like some of the things that I'm seeing right now. I feel like you're getting better starting pitching. Of late for the Red Raiders, I like how you're getting better production right now from third base and catcher position, DH spot as well, over the last few weeks. And so Coach Tadlock has changed the lineup up a little bit, and it seems to have benefited the team. So, I mean, you were in all three of those games this weekend against a good Arizona State team, really could have won all three. And so I feel like you're trending as far as how you're playing in a better direction. I mean, you're not playing lights out or anything like that, but you gotta continue to be more consistent than you have been. But I like. I feel like this is a series that it's doable for the Red Raiders.
And while you're playing for positioning, I guess the positioning that you're really playing for at this point in time now is the Big 12 tournament, and seeing if you can get yourself in a favorable matchup so that you could advance and see how far you can go.
I think that's totally fair and true and all the above. I think right now what Tim Tadlock and his staff is focusing on is getting this team to play to the best of their abilities.
Okay. That doesn't surprise me.
And getting this team to be consistent in what they do, both on the mound and at the plate. Yes, we know that the standings matter and who you're going to play in the first round and all that good stuff. All that factors in, and shoot, with the tough schedule that you have in front of you, I mean, I'm not saying that you're super worried about it, but making sure that you're even in the tournament, in the Big 12 tournament. But I think right now the focus just with them is, let's get this team playing. Let's figure out a way that we can find that magic potion to get this team a little bit more consistent with what they're doing and competing, 9 innings a game. It just feels like every game there's 1 inning or 2 bad innings that just cost you, that just change the game. Unfortunately, I feel like a ton of them have been the first through the third, okay, which speaks to the struggles that you've had in your starting rotation. But just play the best of their abilities, and I feel like you're seeing more of that of late. Just at times it's been one inning that's really cost you.
So right now the standings look like this. West Virginia's at 13-3, and then Kansas and Arizona and TCU are all tied at 12-6 on the season. Arizona State's 11-7, K-State's 10-8, and then three teams, including Tech, Baylor and Cincinnati, are 8-10. Utah's at the bottom, but then fighting for staying out of that second team that's going to be out of the Big 12 tournament would include Oklahoma State, Houston, UCF, and BYU, and the Red Raiders have yet to go to BYU. They'll do that to close out the regular year, May 15th through the 17th. But, I mean, you have a tough series this weekend, and then next weekend going to Morgantown, a team that's, I don't know if they're white hot, but they sure are red hot. They're 13-3 and 34-5 overall.
Yeah, they're playing great baseball. There's
okay,
no
so it seems odd to me that and I've got a theory, and I'm just going to run it by you, and it's not something that I've researched. It's just something that's kind of gone through my head that I've been kind of mulling around. It's like, why is West Virginia so good? And my question is, are they so good because they're a team on the east side of the United States that plays in a it's a cold weather school, obviously, in West Virginia. They've got really good baseball facilities from what you've described on the air in terms of their stadium. And they play in the Big 12, so they get to play in a lot of different time zones and a lot of different weather. Are they getting the best of the player in that area, or is this just something that they've just done a really good job of recruiting the country?
I think probably a combination of all those things. I think they've used the portal well. I think that they do have good facilities. I think that if you're, a player in that area, West Virginia is the school that you want to go to, baseball-wise. And I also think that their schedule has factored in. I mean, you look at their, the standings, and you see they've played 0 top 25 teams all season long. So I think that the schedule definitely factored into their record being what it is.
The 34-5.
Yeah, but they've won 14 straight. And that's tough to do against anybody. Yeah. So they deserve credit for that. So I think it's probably a combination of all those things.
Yeah. And then like if you're West Virginia, you're going to defend yourself and say, well, it's not just because of our location and where we are, because Cincinnati, which is, 3 or 4 hours away from West Virginia, just by the crow flying, they're 8-10 and they're 21-19. So it's the 13-3 Big 12 record that stands out to me for West Virginia more than the 34-5, just because of what you just said of not playing the top 25 teams in the non-con.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Anyway, I was just a thought going. It seems to be an outlier, but maybe it's just because they're the best of the best in their region, and as opposed to teams like Tech or Oklahoma State or even Houston or Baylor, where you're competing against a lot of other Texas schools that have a big emphasis on baseball and kind of sucks some of the talent away from you. I'm not trying to make excuses. It's just thinking out loud.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.